Hello, my name is Laura McGinn, and this is my final. I thought a TED Talk format might be a fun way to show you the information that I've researched for this class. Anyway, so as you all may know from previous posts, I have 4 young kids, and that's why early education is of interest to me. A few years ago, I decided to volunteer at my kids' school, and right away I could see this giant gap in the education of the kids who came from wealthier households and those who did not. These kids are incredibly smart, but they were missing milestones in their education. Starting in kindergarten, the underprivileged kids seemed to be having more difficulty with letter recognition and blending sounds to create words. By first grade, their wealthier peers were eventually reading sentences and onto books, and these kids were still trying to sound out the letters. By the time a child reaches 3rd grade, they're not so much learning to read anymore. They're using their reading skills to learn other topics. So after doing some research, I discovered that if a kid cannot read by 3rd grade, they are 4 times more likely to not graduate high school than their peers who could read proficiently by this time. So I wanted to know why. I wanted to know why these underprivileged children who probably have the same IQ as their more privileged classmates were falling behind academically. And I also wanted to know how I could change this. So what I've discovered is that there are many factors contributing to this disproportionate level of education in the poor communities. So in the next few minutes, I will explore what these factors are and how I believe we could change this. But just to begin, I want to be clear that I do not blame the parents, nor do I blame the schools or the community or the government. I really believe that this is a problem that we all share. Basically, the reality is that students living in poverty are far more likely to fail out of school than their wealthier peers. They're more likely to fail out of school, remain in poverty, and continue this cycle for generations to come. So after looking into some of the statistics, I discovered one very interesting piece of information that I found in the Wall Street Journal that stated that on average, students in every income bracket outscored students in the lower income bracket on every section of their SATs. So students from the wealthiest families outscored those from the poorest income brackets by just shy of 400 points. So here is a graph that I made that shows the difference between the wealthier and the poorer communities. So you can see the difference. I mean, it is a swing that it's hard to explain. And not only are these students in the lower income bracket not scoring high on their tests, but every year, 1.2 million students drop out of high school in the United States. That is 7,000 students a day. So here's a picture that shows 7,000 gumballs. It's just a way of looking at how many students are dropping out in the United States every single day. So here's that picture. So again, I wanted to understand why. I wanted to know why this was happening. And unfortunately, there seems to be many answers to this question and therefore not one simple solution. But poverty to an adolescent can mean that their parents are working 2 jobs and there's no one around to help them with their basic needs, like meals, illnesses, and laundry, let alone their homework. These kids are often fending for themselves and certainly without anything extra like books or pens or even paper. So that's one contributing factor, but also a healthy diet. A healthy diet plays a huge part in a student's physical and nutritional readiness to learn. So a lack of financial resources makes it very challenging to provide a healthy and balanced meal. These students living in poverty's eating patterns may be sporadic, where they do not eat a well-balanced meal, or they'll miss a meal altogether. So without these basic needs being met, children will no doubt have difficulty focusing and potentially fail behind in school. Frequently when families are living in poverty, their community school is also impoverished. School systems in impoverished communities are often under-resourced and frequently lack textbooks, teachers, and the support services that they need to educate the disadvantaged students. The number of students attending schools who require support is overwhelming. They depend on the schools to provide resources to assist them in their developments that they may not receive at home. This dependence includes breakfasts and lunch, academic support, as well as exposure to like counseling. And oftentimes teachers are at a loss on how to help these students meet all of their needs. So with this information, I believe that we can focus on a few of the solutions. So I believe that if everyone got involved, the schools, the families, the community, and the government, we could curb some of these needs for these impoverished schools and some of the students living in these communities. Beginning with the schools and the government, we need to have highly qualified teachers in the classrooms. They need to be educated on the struggles that their underprivileged students face daily, and they need to have the supplies and the incentives to stick around. The government, I believe, could play a big part in reaching these vulnerable kids. Funding these schools and increasing teachers' pay would help keep these really good teachers around. The government could also fund nonprofit organizations that help boost the in-need schools. They could fund programs that inform communities of the power of working together. Helping these students gain academic achievement could lower the welfare costs and even homelessness in the future. So it would be a symbiotic relationship. If parents and grandparents in the community could donate a little bit of time to the kids through reading and writing and mentorship programs, this could also make the difference. Building confidence and cultivating relationships can promote a better beginning to education. Reading to these children and helping them learn to read at an early age can lay an imperative foundation that can be built upon for years to come. There are opportunities for young adults in the community to help out as well. High school and college students could give back through nonprofit organizations like City Year or AmeriCorps. These programs provide individual support for the at-risk students while also establishing an overall positive learning environment in the schools. Having someone to look up to for these kids, to strive to be like, can mean the world to these kids falling behind. And also, getting involved in a nonprofit organization can also be symbiotic for the college and high school students. I mean, this could be a nonprofit organization looks amazing on a resume. So, in conclusion, there are some really, truly gifted, beautiful children that need just a little bit of help, and they could be successful. My idea for improving this situation would be to ensure these good teachers are sticking around, getting the government to help fund helpful programs that are already in place, boosting the community involvement, and if lower economic communities had top-notch teachers and volunteers come in daily or weekly to work with these students falling behind, things could change drastically for these youngsters and in turn our society as a whole. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.